job of staying in shape, going her back and rolling over. Here we go. So, thousands of those, lots, before you think about turning. There's my patient step, is that 1 1/4, and I would build that hill steeper so that it was almost a bounce off your back roll and barely touch. At the same time, this kid, as well as all these others, had probably done at least a few hundred double backs on the trampoline. And really, in the kind of double back they learned on the trampoline was relatively open in the second flip and closed in the relatively open in the first flip and closed in the second flip. When we did, for those of you here for the basic tumbling, you saw the kind of back flip we were teaching, a very rounded, open back tuck, and then we close that a little deeper and make a double back. On trampoline, back 1 1/4, back roll. They knew how to do that as well. Back 1 1/4 to your back over, so they're ready for that other girl going to the back. I never taught any double skill anywhere other than on trampoline first. You know, I had spent this last week with Todd at his camp at IGI, and I watched this kid's jump trampoline, and it's pretty amazing, isn't it? You know, and they just so far along on trampoline. As soon as those kids figure out a flyaway, it's not hard for them to do a full out. You know, they've already spent that time working the skill. So if you don't do a lot of trampoline, I encourage you to start to do so, or snap down mini into a pit, or tumble track. But start working towards open double and late half out, and we'll talk about that later. But this is a unique setup I had in my gym. You'll see if I didn't have a bar pit, I had a very small gym. So this was a creative solution. It's came from the ceiling. And I never would let kids do cast flyaway, double flyaway. They learn to do tap swing double. So why do that?
Great rotation.
Can't make it unless you tap. Can't make it unless you do the right things. You swing down a handstand, you can pipe all the way down to the bottom, hit the bottom, throw your head back, do a skid and tap, and make a double back. Right? You can't do that in the tap swing. Now, you'll see a variety of kids, some of them doing pretty good, some of them not so good. These guys are just learning this skill. By the way, look at where she is. It's barely above horizontal, right? But because she understands, remember in the convulsion, the drag kick we were doing? How many of you were here for that? Saw that drag kick? Watch how efficient she is with this little tiny swing. All right, and that's what I'm chasing right here. This kid has some position errors. That isn't great. No, it's all right. I'll leave her alone. Right there, head's back, way early. And she's out of position with her shoulders. But she's still having to do a reasonable job to get around. One of the things that I really like to see at this point is a very late grab on the second flip. I don't want them to come off the bar and go for the legs. I want that the whole first flip to come around, like when they're going to the mat, and then they grab on the second flip. And that stops a lot of your pulling. You know how you get kids that pulling? I think that pulling is part of them trying to contract and get the ball and grab the legs. So try to get them to feel like 1 1/4 grab pull. And you know why that's really good anyway? Because later on when you want to twist, that's kind of the timing anyway. You're 1 1/4, then make your turn. All right, so here she goes. Very good. Okay, here's a bad example. Although, one thing I will say for her, but one thing I will say, she fully releases in her tap. She's got an arch, but once that happens, the rest of it isn't very good. She leads with her head early. In fact, she lands with her head back. You'll watch the other girl here, and that was better. That second one's better, right? Well, I lost the other kid in the double. Okay. Front jack progression, we don't need to see that, right? All right, so step number one, make sure you work from a tap swing, 1 1/4 to your back, pull them over. Then later on, from a tap swing double, and then past handstand double, and then add the giant. Okay, as far as prepping for a more difficult dismount, one of the first things you have to go to work on is a speed giant, or a giant that taps over the top. The mechanics involved, and we're going to look at them a little bit later down the road, is an extremely late tap. The tap opens, the feet drag longer than usual, and the feet pick up late, and it's a pullover motion. That level 6, tap is great. It's really what you're doing. A big old exaggerated level 6 tap pullover where you accelerate over the top. A good drill, back extension to a push-up position. Not to handstand, back extension, straight arms, back extension, flat push-up position. Lots of those. Another thing I like to do, floor bar, camel max. I put my foot on the floor bar. It's actually in the giant progression here. I can show it to you. They lay down flat and they candle up and try to hit me in the nose with their feet, and they round over to my shoulder. Can you picture that? I'll dig it up here in a minute.